made for this beautiful row quilt, don't you?
Yes, because you have so much pleasure doing all these different blocks. It's a row quilt, right, Mom?
Right, and this is the second part of a 3-part series where we're making this quilt row by row.
Great, and let's look at the blocks we've got from the top. Take it from the top.
Okay, we start with a wonderful traditional block, Farmer's Daughter. We're going to be talking about Farmer's Daughter today.
Right, weather vane. I love that weather vane block.
So it's kind of chunky.
Yeah, I like it.
And wheels, which I love that block. I've put it in other quilts. That's the third one.
Pinwheels with a little extra fancy stuff going on. Then there's sun rays,
which we're talking about today also. And then Dutchman's Puzzle, another very core block in the patchwork lexicon.
Just flying geese, turn different ways. It's really cool. And then the Texas Star down there at the bottom.
So, and we should talk about the fact that Liz and I made this quilt long distance. She made half the rows and I made half the rows. And so in each one of these 3 parts, we're working on one of the blocks I made and one of the blocks Liz made. So you can make a quilt long distance with your friends.
Absolutely. I think this is a classic you and Liz quilt. The colors and everything are really great. Hey, this is the 2700 series of Love of Quilting, and we're glad that you joined us. So let's get into the stuff.
Let's have some patchwork pleasure. Great. Okay, so we've got separated blocks. It's always good to get blocks out away from their partners so that you can, get a better idea of what they look like. So we have Farmer's Daughter there on everybody's left, and then the sun rays is on the right. So first, talking about Farmer's Daughter, it's a simple block like all of these with not a lot of moving parts. So we have a 9 patch in the middle, and we've got a separate 9 patch here. Then the side unit, the center side unit on all 4 sides is kind of like a flying goose unit, but it's elongated. If you're a new quilter and you don't know what a flying goose unit is, don't worry about it because you don't have to know that.
Keep watching the show.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
And then in the corners, just a plain patchwork square.
I always mess up and call these 4 patches because I see the 4, but it's a 9 patch. And the first quilt block I ever made in my life, I was 8 years old?
Yeah.
And I made a doll quilt, kind of a bigger doll quilt with.
Or watching TV quilt.
Watching.
You were smaller then.
Much smaller.
You didn't need a very big quilt to cover so much. There were 3 channels, I think.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yes, the 9 patch is the basic building block for all patchwork. So we've laid it out here, the 9 units, and we were talking ahead of time that, if you were making lots of 9 patches all alike, like that first quilt you made, I don't think we made strip sets, but a person could make strip sets and chop them up, and then you'd be like mass producing them. But in this case, on this our Patchwork Pleasure quilt, each 9 patch in the center of Farmer's Daughter is different.
It's different. So we won't make strip sets. We're playing with lots of different fabrics, which is why this quilt is so great for scraps. You don't need much of each fabric you use to make make each individual block. So grab that scrap bag and go crazy.
And what you can do, and I'm glad you mentioned this because what Liz did and I did for this quilt is she had a scrap bag and I had my scrap bag. So our fabrics were similar but not identical. So the fabrics are each to themselves row to row.
Right. But you probably communicated a little bit, right? You didn't want to do pastels. Like you worked that out.
Well, actually, I got to see her blocks before I made mine, so I kind of knew.
There's always organized.
Yeah, there's always organized
organization.
So we would join these into rows like this, and I have some rows already made. Like this.
Want to talk about pressing in and
Well,
out?
yeah, and are we going to make this 9 patch?
I think we have time.
Yeah, well, we can at least get it started, and you're going to clear over to the side over there. So since you're going to run it through the machine this way, I'm going to turn it. And we talk about this so often, but it's so important, is that if you can press your seams in opposite directions, you can't always do that. But if you can, you get really nice joins. And so on this block, we've pressed the seam toward the black fabric, and the same on this row of blocks. The opposite, but it's also to the black fabric.
Oh, correct.
Yeah. So what that means is these seams abut, and I know our cameras can get so close here, is that those seams lock, and you get beautiful joins. Most people aren't going over their quilt with a magnifying glass looking at it, but it does make for nicer work.
And just real quick, one more thing before you go on, and for people who have never seen this, what we mean by pressing toward the seam is that when we have this sewn, and we go over to the pressing surface, we press it, and then we open it so it's, going in. And this one, we press it so it's going out.
And
I just wanted to show it a little bit more.
Right, and exactly. For people who are absolute beginners, if you've ever made a garment or you're looking at garment sewing, a lot of times what garment sewing is, I can hardly get these open, is you press the seams open. And the reason for that is so that the seams lie flatter on the body. And so with patchwork, it's a whole different thing. Let's make sure we get these together right, because it's pretty easy to get confused. Ask us how we know. So even though I put this on top, I think I would want to turn this over and sew from this direction, because here again, the abutted seams, if your machine pushes this at all, in this case, it will kind of push that seam. It'll have a little roadblock for it. Right. So you're stitching 1/4 inch.
Pedal there. My pedal tends to slide, so I'll put a little tape underneath it. So on the floor.
Or shelf liner works good too. Works well, I should say.
Works well, yeah. You don't want to have to correct,
Well, my mother was an English teacher, can say. And your mother was an English teacher too. That was true. Briefly.
I'm not yet an English teacher.
No.
And I don't have kids yet, so stop with me unless I get started.
Okay, so we've got this joined, and you can see what nice corners. They're just perfect. Okay. So we'd add the other piece here. Not here. Let's turn this around like this. Okay? Great. So that's our 9-patch center, so we can clear that away. And then our other unit is the elongated, it's not really an elongated flying piece, but it's a unit that goes on the side. So it starts with this rectangle right here, and we have 2 squares. One's going to be joined on one end and one on the other end. I've drawn a line. And I like to use this kind of flat artist ruler because, the rulers that we use for rotary cutting are thick so that the rotary blade goes next to them. So they work fine.
But I like this better too.
Right.
It's a little more delicate.
It's more delicate. It's easier to be accurate. And if you go to the TV section of our website, we'll put a list there for the 2700 series of more information about this project. So you draw that line. I've already drawn the other line. And this is ready for you to sew from corner to corner.
Right. And this method of putting a square on the other side of the rectangle, it's easy. It also just avoids having to cut triangles,
and fit them on. It's a little wasteful of fabric, but less wasteful of time.
And what's more important, really? Don't answer that.
We've talked about it before, how somehow the outside world thinks quilters are these patient people, and we're not.
The opposite.
We're the opposite, because we want to finish one quilt so we can make another one.
Although you do say in the beginning, efficiencies aren't really what you need to worry about. Just go at a good pace. Worry about how to do things faster later.
Right. And then, so we've got one sewn on. You're going to go ahead and do the other side. And of course, if we were making this block, one block at a time, we'd probably make all 4 of these units. And that speeding up just comes naturally.
You don't want to see how fast I sew at home.
Okay. So now this unit, we'll open this out or close it actually. Finger press. Make sure you did perfect, Mary. Which sometimes on TV is not. I've done some terrible sewing on camera.
Then you just put your finger over it.
You just say, or we say we'll fix this later. But we don't sew perfectly. Nobody does. And that's how you learn. But these are important to get right because if these come up too short, you really have to fudge it later. It's not fun. Well, and I like to do this and check them before. I mean, you could just haphazardly chop these off, but I like to check first. So I'm going to give them a little press over here.
The other danger is, we're just so full of tips today. Be careful about squaring things off. People say squaring things up. Sometimes you can, but if you square up too far, you cut off your seam allowances. So just be careful about squaring up a unit or cutting it down so it matches.
Yeah, we should demonstrate that sometime. You want accuracy so you don't ever need to trim something. Okay, so I am going to use I got my bigger scissors out because if little scissors, you'd have to cut. So with big scissors, I can just trim this off. I don't have to be perfect. I want to leave about 1/4 inch of seam. And we'll save these for later, okay? I'll save them right down here.
Save them in the garbage.
Okay, so now let's lay out the parts of this block. Okay, great. So we need to find all my pieces and parts. Oh, I got a bunch.
You're making a star, so that might help you remember to keep them the right way.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Oh, I like it. It's kind of. Oh, I think it probably has a name too. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. You like that? I do.
I have some more. I thought I had more squares. There they are.
Let's not confuse the people though.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it too wrong for too long.
Yeah.
So we've got star points here.
Yeah. Here's some more stuff here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's crap needs going over here. Mm-hmm. So that's our farmer's daughter block. Mm-hmm. And so let's whisk this away, Mary.
Okay.
And we'll bring out yet another.
Wouldn't it be funny to have an actual whisk?
Yeah.
Scramble it away.
Okay. So here's our block laid out in horizontal rows, like this.
Great.
Okay.
Lovely.
So, I think we want to get to our other block, right?
We probably should. There's a lot to say about
But let's turn this away the way it would be to go into our machine, to emphasize yet again that we pressed our seams and we sew with red thread and all our prep work here so that everybody can see it better. But you can see that here again, the seams have been pressed so that they are in opposite directions, so they lock. Please be aware that you can't always do this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it does, it's a helping hand for better patchwork.
Great. But I twist seams. It just happens.
Yes.
But the more, it's also helpful not just with, the block laying right and stuff. If you have too much bulk when you're quilting your quilt, the needle has to get through a bunch of stuff.
And your long armer will appreciate it if you. But when I'm sewing, if I'm really on fire, I'm sewing a quilt, I'm finishing a quilt, and I'm working late at night. I'm a morning person, and I twist a few seams. I look at them like,
whatever.
Whatever.
What you can live with.
The fewer, the better.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sun rays. And we can
move the daughter out of the way.
Yes.
Get out of the way, daughter.
Yeah. Okay. So this is another simple block. It's got a square and a square unit at the center. And then just plain squares in the corners. And then this patchwork unit that has a nickname of Peaky and Spike. So Doreen Speckman, who was a wonderful quilter that I knew.
I remember her.
Yes, a lot of fun from Wisconsin. Yeah. She nicknamed these pieces, and this is
Peaky.
Spike. No, that's Spike.
Peaky. It's Peaky.
No, it's Spike. It's Spike.
Everyone else said it. Great.
So that's Spike and that's Peaky. But anyway, you don't need to know that to make this block. So we are going to bring in some other stuff here. We're going to start with square and a square.
I just made a quilt, by the way, with a ton of these units, and it was so interesting. When you turn it, just the way you turn this unit is so interesting because I didn't get this shape at all. I got a much different.
With
my block.
Spike here.
I'm never going to get that right.
But that's the fun of these units because they've been combined and recombined so many different ways.
Yeah.
So the square and a square unit starts with, believe it or not, the red square in this case. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add. This is also another flippy corners or diagonal seams method. Those are some of the names you get for it that we used on that elongated side piece on Farmer's Daughter. So these do not overlap. These loose parts overlap, so you can sew one and then the other, Mary, without really. Well, you'll take it out, but sure. Have I done that right? Yeah. So the lines are a little bit hard to see, but I've marked here from point to point with my pencil.
Great.
Okay.
And I think, while I'm sewing, I'll just hold it
so that one doesn't go away.
Yeah, with the lined fabric, it's kind of funky to find the line. But
so it's interesting. Like in the demos today, you sewed with a 1/4 inch for that 9 patch, and then you sewed down the middle on these flippy corner type units. So you switch back and forth. And for those of you who are beginners, your sewing machine, you may have a special foot on it, a patchwork foot that has a little guide. And it's great for when you would be making that 9 patch and you want to sew that 1/4 inch seam. But you might find it's kind of in the way when you're doing this. So if you love that foot on your machine, do all the things that you would do with that first and then put on a regular foot. Okay, so you fold this out. Not as perfect as the last one. But it's okay. We'll do it this way. That one's good. Okay. So let's switch to this one. This is fine, but let's switch to this one that's all pressed.
Also right.
Yeah. Okay. So then we need 2 more squares. Okay. And I'm going to mark these. And it's kind of this fabric. I love this fabric, but it kind of has lines of its own on it. But I'll mark darker than you really only need to mark dark enough for you to see it. So.
And I won't sew these in the interest of time, so we can talk about our peepee and spike.
Okay.
But we can mark them.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, we can talk you through it. Yeah. Okay, so these will go on here like this, and we've trimmed away. We've trimmed away and folded back. Yes, we've trimmed away like this. I'll bring this back. We've trimmed that away and folded that back. I did that pretty fast. And then the same thing. We'll sew and flip that back. Everybody can see my hands are in the way, and trim. And this one like this. So that makes our square in the square, just like this. So let me turn it over so everybody can see how nice that looks when it's trimmed. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the center. All right. Now
for peepee and spike.
Now for peepee and spike.
That I will never get the right name for in order. Okay. Okay. We cut from strips on this ruler, right?
Right. We do. And I'm going to use a special ruler. And it enables me to cut these pieces and these pieces from strips.
It's a 2-part ruler, not that common to have a 2-part ruler.
Right, and it's a great tool. I'm going to demonstrate it in a minute, but I just wanted to bring this in and show everybody that most of the time, a pattern project doesn't require you to have special tools. And so most patterns that are published, you'll see that there are pattern shapes published, and you can make your own template. You couldn't rotary cut next to that plastic, but you could draw and cut it out. And that's the way we used to do it when we started making patchwork. We didn't have rotary cutters.
You don't have to buy special tools. Template plastic is good, though, to have, I think.
When template plastic came along, we were very happy. Back in the dark ages of the patchwork revival.
When I was making my little doll.
Yes, exactly. So I want to make sure I get the right ones here. So I've got my strip is actually in 4 pieces, and I'm going to cut the spike piece with this ruler, and I'm going to put my glove on because I'm going to be holding this ruler close.
And the way the ruler works is it tells you right on the ruler that for a 4-inch finished spike, you cut a 4.5-inch strip, for example, and that's the measurements we're using today. But this one, you can do a 6-inch finish spike with a 6.5-inch strip all the way up to a 1-inch finish. So that's
and I've got this on a little contraption. I love the word contraption. A doohickey, or it's like a turntable. I'm going to turn it around just so people can see. This it's pretty busy there, but that's that 4.5-inch. And so this enables me just ease of cutting. You don't have to have one of these, but as you'll see, it helps. I'm going to get it all the way up here. So I put my 4.5-inch line along the bottom, the little blunted in on the top. I make sure that I have extra fabric here, and so I'm going to cut. Okay,
it's got a new blade on that.
Yeah,
this is where the turn is so cool and great.
Be sure you have your cup of coffee out of the way. Okay, and then I want to make sure I didn't nudge my ruler. I'm kind of pushing it along because, I've got a lot of layers there. Yeah. Okay, so that makes that part. And then, I'll give that to you. Okay. And then my red, which are the peepees. The peepees. Oh, I thought that was the rotary. No. No, okay. So, and this side, you'll see it. I'm going to slide it over here so you can see this little blunted end. It's an engineered corner, and important. Right. When Mary sews that, you're going to see. So here again, I line this up and make sure there's extra away from the selvage. I'm going to cut down there. Okay. Give that to you. Yep. Well, don't take it away. Okay. Take it away. And then I'm going to cut.
We want to get one of these sewn too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then I punch this off right here. That's that little corner. Okay. All right. So
now
here you
go. And the one thing really quick is that you need reverses of these.
Right.
So fold your fabric in at least in two.
Right sides together or wrong sides together. You
need reverses. So I'm going to pop this on
and show how you line that up.
I'm going to show you how this little blunted corner, drive that into the side so you have a little dog ear hanging off. Okay, and that's what you want.
Let me check it.
Oh wow, checking it.
Okay, very good. I get confused on this. I don't know about you. Okay,
It's a good thing. Yeah. Okay. It's a good thing we're both here. Right.
Make sure I got it back together.
Yeah,
Right.
you got it. Okay, now drop this down.
And here again, you're back to 1/4 inch seams.
Okay. I just want to get it in the right spot. That's important. Okay. We're going to take another look at the quilt too, right, Mom?
We got time.
Good. All right.
Okay. Okay, so we open this out. You want to make sure you get this oriented right, and then you add this one on.
That looks pretty good.
It looks great.
And then you cut off the dog ear at the top.
Okay, so add this one real quick. Okay, we got time. Who needs tips anyway?
Exactly. You need 4 of these units, correct?
Right. Okay. So here's our block laid out. We have our square in the middle, the peaky and spike units on the side.
You'll be happy to know this is perfect.
It's perfect. Okay. Look back.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look back. We made 2 blocks today. So we've got the farmer's daughter row, the top row, and then the 4th row down, sun rays.
Sun rays. And there's one more row quilt to show.
Yes. Get ready for this. It'll knock you out. It's beautiful. This is Christmas Joy, another row quilt that Liz Porter and I designed a number of years ago. And these are more complicated rows. And so, but, with the right instructions, none of them are, they're all accomplishable.
Exactly.
But it's a wonderful quilt that you can make with friends or yourself, and row by row with checkerboards in between.
And there's paper piecing in there, which is my favorite thing to do.
And applique and piece lettering, all kinds of neat stuff for your future. Grab a pencil, tips, and other useful information coming up next. So, Mary, this is really a neat idea from Sandy Clough from Rowan, Iowa. And I kind of do this. I don't have a box, but I like to make my binding ahead of time. When I finish the top, I make my binding, and then I hang on to it while my quilt's being quilted. And so I want to be sure I have that fabric. So she can use a decorative box as her binding keeper. And so she puts her binding in there. She knows the fabric in there is, you can't use that for anything else. Okay.
You have to make sure you know what's in that box and where the box is.
Exactly. It's a great idea. This is a chapstick tube that has no chapstick left in it.
Rosemary Corey from Lake Oswego, Oregon. She puts needles. If you can open that up. You can clean it out easily with a cotton swab. Label it if you like. But she puts needles in there, and great way to.
You could put used needles to discard, or you could put a certain kind of needle, put a little sticker on it.
You know what I do too? I would put needles in here, maybe make a couple of these packs, and put them in little bags when I go to classes and things. You never want to be without your needles, so you can have a couple different chapstick tubes.
Yes, good idea. I think this is really clever. When you get buttons, extra buttons on a garment that you buy, they come in this little bag. I have zillions of them. I don't like to sew buttons on, but I do have them. But anyway, Carol Tiernan from Aiken, South Carolina, saves them and uses them to organize her press repeat for her machine. So she's got zipper foot. She just sticks the label in there. It's clear. You can see it. You know it's there. She can find the proper foot each time she needs to change one and it zips closed.
Very nice. And if it's got different parts, it'll all be in there.
It might have a little screw that goes with it.
Exactly. Rosemary Corey did our chapstick. So Dee Whitmack has got this tip for us today. For heavy-duty quilt hangers, you can purchase an 8-foot by 1.5-inch piece of foam pipe insulation for a few dollars and slip it onto.
So you cut it in sections.
Exactly. Right? And you can put those onto heavy-duty plastic hangers. The foam can be glued on or just flipped over, but it eliminates fold lines on your quilt. Quilt top.
You can hang a big quilt top on this, but wall hanging, you could store a wall hanging in the closet on this, and it's a great way. They're in the dark, they're not going to get faded, and no fold. Great tips. Thank you, Dee, and thank you everybody for sending them to us today. If you want to send us a tip, it can come in the mail. Fons and Porter Tips, P.O. Box 171, Winterset, Iowa 50273. Go to the internet, go to the tip section of fonsandporter.com, and if we use one of your tips, you'll get a 1-year subscription to Fons and Porter's Love Quilting magazine. Bye.
Additional quilting ideas from Marianne and Liz are available in Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine. A 1-year subscription contains 60 or more projects, easy to follow step-by-step instructions, and our tips, techniques, and shortcuts. In addition to the magazine, you'll get a DVD containing all 13 shows from the 2700 series, and 2 additional booklets with extra projects, tips, and techniques. The cost is $20.